Father Jeremy Paulin, and he's going to be speaking for about 20 minutes. It's a great honor for me to be here tonight to speak to you. I never thought when I graduated from here 27 years ago, that I would be a Roman Catholic priest addressing the parents of children at Trivium School. Furthest thing from my mind at that time, 27 years ago. I actually began here in 1980 as a sophomore. I was here for 3 years, 1980. So 30 years ago, this is my 30th anniversary of beginning Trivium School. And I take this opportunity to thank Mr. and Mrs. Schmidt, John and Louise, for your goodness and for the inspiration that you responded to in founding this school and the sacrifices that you made to bring this school to reality, and then all the subsequent staff, your son, Dr. Bill Schmidt, and all the people that have contributed, all this faculty who were introduced tonight, all the goodness that's here. And just to thank you all and to congratulate you and bless you for what you're doing. And then the parents, this night really, as I was thinking about it, and this opportunity that I was given, Dr. Schmidt invited me to come and speak, this opportunity, it's really about you. This night is for you, it's for parents. And as I was reflecting on my 27 years since leaving Trivium and my own vocation to be a religious priest, a lot of it had to do with my time here. And as Dr. Schmidt said, it is a very pivotal time in life, this 7th to 12th grade, the years that are taught here at Trivium School. And the way I want to I guess the best way for me to convey what I think about that, how I feel about it, is just to relate to you my own story of coming to Trivium. I'm one of 10 children. Are there any families here with 10 children? No? 8, 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so you're all obviously all parents. You're all family people. My family might be a little bit different from yours in this respect, that all the names are, well, let me tell you, Jim, John, Jackie, Justin, Jamie, Jean, Joseph, Jeremy, Jesse, and Joshua. They used to call us the J people. And there was a certain time, it was 1980, and I remember my parents they're very holy people. I just saw them the other day. My dad just turned 80. My mom is 79. They'll celebrate 56 years of marriage in October. And in 1980, my parents, they were trying to keep the family together, trying to keep us faithful. We went to Mass every Sunday. There were devotions. My dad was very involved in the Cursillo movement in the 70s and the charismatic renewal. And there came a point, though, when he realized that he was losing hold on his family. And he came home at one point, 79, 80, and we were all watching television, and nobody greeted him when he came into the house. And so my dad upped and he sold our television set for $1 to one of my friends. I was really embarrassed. We're going into the Stone Age. What's this about? You know? And then one time my parents, they've given me a lot of homiletic material, by the way, my family. My parents, they decided among themselves, my father and mother, they decided that we're going to pray the rosary every night during Lent. And they didn't tell us that we're going to keep going after that. So we got to the end of Lent, and guess what? We had to keep going, and the rosary it became a part of our lives on a daily basis, and to this day, for myself, that is still true. And so my dad, in 1980, all this stuff was going on. He went to Washington. There was a conference sponsored, I think, by some Christian group about the nature of the family. And he went to that conference, and they spoke about the attacks on the family and how the family was being undermined in so many different ways, and how families were falling apart, and all the horrible things that were being done to families. And he met somebody there at that conference, the Belvilles, Dick and Jean Belville, whose children also went here to Trivium School. And Dick Belville told my dad about this new school that had just opened here in Lancaster, Trivium School. And so my dad came home, and he took the last 5 of us that were still in public school, and he said, I'm taking you all out of school, and I'm bringing you to Trivium School. He came down here. I think my dad was in communication with Mr. and Mrs. Schmidt, and he brought us down here to check it out, and we did, well, the two younger ones didn't mind so much, but my sister and there were 5 of us they brought here. My sister and one of my brothers and I, we were terribly upset about it. Didn't want anything to do with it. My sister was a senior in high school, and she wanted to graduate with her class. She had some very good friends there, and I was beginning to be kind of a rebel. I was 13, 14, and my dad says to this day that I would have been the worst. In his opinion, I would have been the worst if they hadn't taken me and brought me here. And so I have a confession to make. By the way, I go to confession every 2 weeks. I never wait more than 2 weeks, but just a little, you know. The kids say, well, can't you go to yourself? No. I can't. God is good, because I'd probably be so hard on myself, you know. That's probably true. So this confession I want to make is this, that I got really angry, and I ranted, and I railed, and I swore at my dad and my mom. I said, I'm not going to that school. I don't want anything to do with it. But my dad was firm. And my mother was very firm with him. They were united, and they said, you have no other option. You have to go to school. And my parents, it wasn't easy for them, because I was very angry. I said a lot of words that I apologize for later on. My parents made a big sacrifice. Probably a lot of you have had to make sacrifices. When I came here, I think the education, it cost $1,200. Does that sound right? About $1,200 a year at first. And I was surprised to hear it's only like $6,800. That it hasn't, in 25 years, it hasn't increased very much actually. But it's still a big sacrifice. And my father had to take out a second mortgage to pay for the 5 of us to be able to do that. I grew up in Athol, Massachusetts. You know where that is? That's about 40, 50 miles west of here. And every day, my mother would put us in the van, take us to Mass in the morning, and drive out here and drop us off, and then she'd wait. Or she was also going back to college to get she was an RN, she was going back to college to get a bachelor's degree at UMass. She'd drive all the way to Amherst a couple of times a week, drive back here and pick us up, and drive us back to Athol. By the end of the day, there were several hundred miles my mother had driven, and none of us were old enough to drive yet. So she had to do all that driving. The money, the time, but when they found Trivium, and they met the Schmidts, and they met the other families that were here, they realized there was something very valuable. I can't stress enough, and now as a priest, I've been a priest for 4 years, and just really, my parents, the firmness that my parents had, and my parents were not severe, but they were firm in their faith, and they resisted my own vituperations, my own anger. They tried to channel it, and they tried to put me on the right path, and they did, but they were so firm. And so I just want to encourage you that firmness, because, I don't know, you don't have to raise your hand, okay, but maybe some of your kids were like me. Maybe some of you were like me, I don't know.